This is your life, and through the back emergency door, I've been smuggled on board this coach, heading through London's traffic for Euston Station, carrying on board Europe's champion football team. I've temporarily joined a camera crew shooting a documentary on them for German television. The man who led them to glory is up front there, little knowing what's going on behind, and with the help of his famous team, and by the way, he's a miner's son who has a great, great story, but with the help of his famous team, I'm hoping that my timing will get me to my goal in the next few seconds, literally, so here goes.
Is that on? Yeah.
Hello, Bob. I know you weren't expecting this sort of filming here, were you?
Oh, no.
But with a hand for you. And your chairman here, John Smith.
Yes, thank you.
Bob Paisley.
That's all you, though.
Manager of European Cup winners Liverpool. Tonight, this is your life.
Well done, Bob. Well done. I thought it was cute. Yeah, I said the phone.
Well, with your permission, the driver here is going to pull in before he gets to Euston Station, just a few yards along here, outside Thames Television Studios here on the Euston Road. And a lot more surprises there for you. Okay.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, all right. And thank you very much, team, and Chairman John and everyone else. Because Bob Paisley, miner's son from County Durham, this is your life. And what a memorable year this has been in that life. For the second time in succession, you've been voted Football Manager of the Year, a unique achievement in itself. For the second time in succession, you led Liverpool Football Club to the League Championship. And Her Majesty the Queen awarded you the OBE in recognition of your taking Liverpool on in this Jubilee year to win the greatest prize in club football, the European Cup. And this, Bob, is how your great team went into the history books on May 25th in the final against Borussia Mönchengladbach in Rome. Well, Bob, that was a great moment when Tommy Smith's header went in, wasn't it?
Terrific, terrific.
Tommy, I know you were particularly delighted for Bob when that great goal went in, weren't you?
Yeah, that's true, Eamon, yeah. Very good. He actually said go up for corners and that, you know. He's probably using his head for once instead of his football ability.
And Bob, the first person to greet you at Liverpool Airport when you returned after that historic match, you thought was in Liverpool tonight. But she's not. She's right here. Your wife, Jessie. And the son Graham and his wife Sandy, and with her husband Simon, your daughter Christine. And Jessie, tell me, what was it Bob said to you before he set out for Rome?
Well, he said he was looking forward to the trip because the last time he'd been there was when he was stationed there during the war, and he'd been in a tank that time.
And Robert, you and Graham were at the match, weren't you?
That's right, Eamon. After the match, Dad wished he still had that tank to take him through the crowds who wanted to slap him on the back.
Well, now, Bob, someone who was an integral part of that greatest achievement in your career is missing tonight because he has to be in Germany, where, of course, he now plays for Hamburg. But he greets you now, former England captain, Kevin Keegan.
Hello, boss, Eamon and all the lads. It's pleasure to be talking to you tonight, although I can't be there because I've got a game. I can never forget the first day you took the job at Anfield, when you gathered all the lads into the dressing room down at Melwood, and you stood there, and we were all wondering just what sort of reaction you would have to get in the job, and we wondered how you was going to talk, because you'd always been quiet under Shanks. And you stood there with your back to the wall, and you said, first word you ever said, I'll never forget, you said, I didn't want the job anyway. And we thought, oh no, you know, what's going to happen here? But you've gone on from there. You've not only took the job, but you've took it and done a marvellous job. You've been manager of the year twice, which you deserved. You've won a lot of respect from a lot of people in the game, especially the players who play under you like myself. I hope you pull the treble off, because quite honestly, I don't think there's a team in this country that can touch you. And then you get voted manager of the year again and complete a great hat-trick. And all the best, boss, and me and my wife will have a drink over here in Germany with you. Auf Wiedersehen, which, in case you don't know, in Germany means something like Tirawak.
Thank you, Kevin Keegan. Well, Bob Paisley, this is your life, and you were born on January 23rd, 1919, in the Durham mining village of Headingley Hole. Your late father is on shift work at the coalface, and one Sunday afternoon, when you were a boy, he's in bed, catching up on his sleep after the night shift, when he's wakened by a rumpus downstairs.
And Bob, that day you really thought your time was up.
From their home in Headingley Hole, your younger brother Hughie and his wife Mary. So, Hughie, tell us what happened that afternoon.
Well, Eamon, you know what brothers are. They like a bit scrap, you know. Well, this Sunday afternoon, it just went a little bit too far.
Oh,
yeah, we were sitting by the fireside, and I was walking by old Bob and on the bottom, and more than I could stand, I had to just, you know, have a try to be a champion, which I never beaten, right? But, Mother was keep, will you be quiet? Your father's in bed.
Well, why did Bob think his time was up?
Well, the old man come down with the alarm clock. Hit the oven door. Man, the alarm clock never ticked no more, you know.
Thank you, Hughie and Mary Paisley. 1924, you go to Barrington School, and one day in class, when you're just 8 years old, you nearly frightened the life out of your teacher.
Remember, Bob? She thought you murdered me.
Recalling that day 50 years ago, your schoolboy pal, Tom Hope.
Well, you can see the size, so no wonder I murdered him.
Well, Tom, tell me, how was Bob supposed to have murdered you?
He had a toy knife, Eamon. And what happened here was, you know, it was a trick knife whereby the blade itself, when pushed against anything, it went into the handle. He pretended to stab me with this, and when the blade went into my body, she was astounded. She thought you'd murdered me, Bob. And after that, she got the shock of her life when she realized that I'd pretended to collapse.
Thank you, Tom Hope. Well, a joker at school, but even in those days, Bob, you take your football very seriously.
Bob even made a training exercise out of a visit to the fish and chip shop.
He was a teammate with Hetton Juniors, and you haven't seen him for 30 years, Ned Blenkinsop.
I was wondering about that.
Training exercise out of a visit to a fish and chip shop. How did he do that, Ned?
Well, whenever we made a trip to the fish and chip shop or the cinema, Bob would set off at a cracking pace. And sometimes timers clock to clock. He was a real heel and toe man. Just as keen to win the fish and chips as he was to win the European Cup, I think.
Thank you, Ned Blenkinsop. Well, Bob, you go on to win a Durham County schoolboy soccer cap at the age of 14. At 18, you joined the famous amateur soccer club Bishop Auckland, which you have to make a living, and for 9 months you're a surface worker at Hetton Lyons Colliery. But your father, who'd been injured at the coalface, urged you to leave the colliery and take a job as a bricklayer. You're taken on by a builder and become great pals with his son, who drives the lorry to the building sites. Now, you haven't seen him for 30 years, but back in Hetton, where he's a monumental mason, he tells us about a certain monument you left him, your old pal, Alwyn Wade.
Hello, Bob, and congratulations these days on your team building. But back in the late 30s, your job was building of a different sort. You had a hand in constructing some grand buildings in this part of the world. And here at my workshop, I'm the proud possessor of one of them. Perhaps, Bob, now you're flush with success, I should ask the local council to put up one of those special plaques saying this building was erected by Bob Paisley, OBE, manager of the European Cup winning team, 1977. Oh, Bob, you couldn't have put up your buildings without someone else who is here with me now, George Walker.
Maybe 40 years ago, lad, when you were the bricklaying, I was the labourer, did some good jobs. Can you remember working at Kelly's farm? When we had our suspicions about a certain hen laying away. Kelly was watching us, we were watching Kelly, and somebody nipped round and got the egg. And we had an idea what it was. And you would said to me on the lorry, as he got on the lorry going home, this lad, that yeah, I thought it was under his hat. So he gently tapped him on the head as he got on the lorry, and there it was, the egg yolk running down his face. You were right, Bob.
And he's right here, George Walker and your old pal you haven't seen for 30 years, Alwyn Wade. You remember doing that to the egg, do you?
Ah, yeah, there was 2 eggs under his hat, actually.
Well, bricklaying during the week, but Saturdays see you building your soccer career with Bishop Auckland. And in 1939, the team becomes the first in the country to win in the same season the Northern League Cup, the Durham Challenge Cup, and here at Sunderland, Bishop Auckland's greatest triumph that year, victory in the Amateur Cup final with a 3-0 extra-time win over Willington. And immediately after that match, you signed for Liverpool. And there you play left half to one of the all-time great Scottish international left-wingers and strike up a lifelong friendship with him. You shared many a triumph at Anfield, but the day he'll never forget had little to do with football.
No, it was when Bob decided to lend a hand in cleaning the boss's car.
Today, an accountant at Liverpool University Students' Union, your great friend on and off the field, Billy Little. Billy, what was Bob up to car cleaning then?
Just after the war, we had a commissionaire at Anfield named Paddy Walsh, and he used to always clean the manager's car. And this particular day, he'd done a great job. It was usually immaculate, the car, when he'd done, and he was in the process of finishing the car off, and he went to get a new bucket of water, and Bob nipped in, opened the car doors, wound down the window, and Paddy came along, none thinking, right in through the car, and all over the car. But I must add that he wasn't like that on the field. He was a great worker. Characteristics were tenacity and determination, and these characteristics are what have made him the supreme manager of Europe.
Thank you, Billy Little. So, Bob, in 1939, you began an association with Liverpool Football Club, which has so far lasted 38 years, something of a record in the mercurial world of top-class professional football. Now, we went to Liverpool this week to find out what the fans there think of a career that has covered player, trainer, assistant manager, and now European Cup winning manager.
When I saw these magic, let's face it.
The manager of the year, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, he's a good manager because he's strict, he gets on well with the players.
Oh, he's a great manager. He's the best manager we've ever had.
Bob Paisley's done very good. He's won 2 cups. He's got them working the way he wants them to work on the field.
He's been great. He took over a big job, and he's done great ever since. And taking us through last year, he's smashing. There's no delay.
Well, I think he's installed the team spirit, kept it going, and
Prove themselves. Best team in Europe.
Well, I mean, what can you think of them? Mind you, they had a bad month last month. They lost a goal.
I thought you might recognise that particular Liverpool fan, but he's not in Liverpool tonight. He's here, the legendary manager who succeeded your good friend, Bill Shankly. Well, Bill, you and Bob here had a 15-year association. Did you ever row?
No, we never had any rows. We didn't have time for rowing. We'd got to plan where we were going to keep all the cups we won. Bob was a dedicated, loyal man, efficient as well. And he was like me, he wanted to win things. And this is the spirit we put into the Liverpool Football Club. The only arguments we had when we lost a goal at 5-a-side.
Right, thank you, Bill Shankly. In 1940, Bob, the career you'd always dreamed of had only just got underway when you have to swap the famous all-red uniform of Anfield for this, the uniform of the Royal Artillery. For 4 years, you serve abroad. Egypt, Italy, and the Western Desert. One day in 1942, you're serving with the 73rd Medium Artillery Regiment in North Africa. You and your comrades are in a frontline dugout position. There'd been a lull in the action, but that day, an enemy fighter suddenly appears over the horizon and swoops on the dugout in a surprise attack, spraying bullets.
And a few seconds later, I thought Bob Paisley would never see again.
The officer who was next to you in that desert dugout that day, you haven't seen him for 30 years, but we found him, Captain Norman Whitehouse. So, Captain Whitehouse, tell us what happened.
Well, the plane came over and sprayed the dugout with explosive bullets. And when it was gone, Bob had his hands over his eyes saying, "I can't see, I'm blind." So we took him off to the MO as quick as we could and left there, Bobby, do you remember? They came back 24 hours later with dark spectacles and he was all right. It was marvellous.
I know all your army mates were relieved to hear that good news, especially 3 close pals from those Middle East days 35 years ago. Ex-Sergeant Joe Bate and ex-gunners Jack Moffat, Stretton. Thank you, boys, and thank you.
I thought all good shot, my friends.
Well, 1945 and the war in the Middle East over, you're back in Britain, stationed at Woolwich Arsenal. And the Army gave you permission to play for Liverpool at weekends. You travel north on Friday evenings and return Saturdays after the match. And one of those trips led to a very memorable match. Jessie, isn't that so?
That's right. I was going to London to visit a friend there, and we were going on the midnight train, and I got in the train, put my sandwiches on the seat beside me, and this young soldier came into my compartment, threw his greatcoat right on top of them, and I said, "What do you think you're doing?" kind of thing. And so he apologized. It's more than he does sometimes nowadays. And we chatted all the way, and we continued chatting all through the next day. And then we met again in Liverpool, and that was it, 31 years ago. And so if he hadn't come into my compartment and he hadn't thrown his greatcoat on my sandwiches, well, I might not be Mrs. Paisley to this day.
You met again in Liverpool in the following year, Bob, when you resumed your career with the club. You married Jessie on July 17, 1946, at All Souls Church, Springwood, Liverpool. And as we've heard, Liverpool becomes your adoptive city. But there's another part of the country close to your heart, a picturesque little market town in North Yorkshire, Malton, where you've been going every year for 15 years to stay at the home of a racehorse trainer pal. But this year, alas, was the last year, because that great pal of yours has now gone to live in what?
Hong Kong. He's not sent me money back, but he's...
He's done better than that. We've sent himself back. We've flown him those 8,000 miles from Hong Kong. Frank Carr.
Can't miss it, mate.
So, Frank, Bob enjoys the peaceful life of the countryside.
Well, he does, but it wasn't all peaceful up in Malton. Remember, Bob, when we went out with the sides to cut the grass on the gallops?
Yeah.
It's long grass. It was a real hard slog, this. So I said to Bob, I'll show you a countryman's trick. So Bob stood back while I poured the petrol over the long grass, and I dropped the match in it. I said to Bob, now this cuts out all the hard work. But I'd made the petrol in a circle, so when it went up, I was in the middle. I was running for my life, you know. Hey, he didn't have the last laugh. I got him riding a racehorse one time, and, well, as a jockey, they make a great football manager.
Thank you, Frank Carr. Now, before we close, Bob, and as you celebrate the greatest year in the history of Liverpool Football Club, I want to take you back to your first day at the famous Anfield ground 38 years ago. You, Bob, the raw recruit to professional football, were introduced to Liverpool's team captain, who can't be here tonight because of football commitments, but who nevertheless talks to you from his home in Manchester. Of course, that Liverpool skipper who went on to become Manchester United's Sir Matt Busby.
Hello, Eamon. Hello, Bob. You know, Bob, I knew you, first of all, as a very dedicated player. One who always put his club before himself. And it didn't surprise me at all when you took over the helm at Liverpool Football Club that you took this great club to the greatest prize in football. Eamon, one might get the wrong impression that Bob is a very quiet person. Yes, I would agree with that. But he has this inner steel to motivate his players to great heights. And this is a great thing in his favor regarding football. He is prepared to give everyone else the limelight rather than his personal than himself. And this is a very rare thing these days. Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you, Sir Matt Busby. Well, with that great tribute from one of the game's all-time greats, we end your story, except to remind you, Bob, of a season way back in 1939 that I know lives in your memory. You were a member of this great amateur team, Bishop Auckland, which went into the history books by winning those 3 trophies that year. And now, Bob, for the first time in 38 years, we've got your old Bishop Auckland teammates together again for you. Former captain Carl Straw, Harry Young, Ken Trigg, Joe Hughes, Eddie Wanless, Bob Hardesty, Ken Humble, and Laurie Wensley. But Bob, since those days in Bishop Auckland, your story for nearly 40 years has been the story of Liverpool Football Club, now proud champions of Europe. Emlyn Hughes, captain of England. You're also captain of that team. A final word from you.
Well, I think really that everyone that's come on here tonight has summed it up. I mean, he's a person that is absolutely and utterly dedicated to Liverpool Football Club. And when Shanks finished, it was by the director's discretion that they offered the job to Bob. And really, it was impossible to offer it to anybody else. And to come along and emulate Shanks and then even go on and win more trophies and go on and do as well as he's done, I think now that everybody in the club, including the fans, appreciate Bob Paisley.
Themselves said that you're the greatest, and they're right. And throughout your tremendous success in English and European football, they, the fans, have always inspired you and your team like this. You'll never walk alone. Bob Paisley, OBE, football manager of Jubilee year. This is your life.